Hey there, everybody. Happy Good Friday. It is Good Friday. And it is a Good Friday, that's for sure, but it is actually Good Friday. So, from that religious perspective, here we have Easter weekend in full force. And I can't believe that it is Easter almost. I cannot believe it. Mainly just because at how quickly the year goes by. My 15-year-old daughter, she was saying to me the other day over dinner, she was like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I feel like we just did Easter just a couple weeks ago. Why is that?" And I was laughing about that. I'm like, it gets even better because, as time goes on, as you age, the days just kind of click away, and all of a sudden you're going to be the next year. It's going to be happening almost every single day. So we went through all of that, and so here we are at Good Friday again, so quickly, and it does seem like it was just Good Friday, last Friday. But on the topic of Good Friday, as I was sitting here I got kids waking up today, and everybody's home from school, so we'll see how long we can get through Conscious Coffee, that's for sure. Because I already have one munchkin up that should be still sleeping. But as I was sitting here and I was just trying to get a feel for what am I going to talk about today, and I had a book given to me yesterday, and I thought, maybe there's something in here that I should talk about, and it probably will come up. The only thing in this book that I can really talk about is about detachment, because everything that we really truly attach to, attachment causes suffering, and detachment is actually how we move through suffering and into joy and happiness. But that's not what we're really talking about here. But it might be a little bit too, because we're talking about Good Friday, and which puts Jesus center stage today. And when we talk about he died and he was resurrected. Well, I'm not going to get into any religious stance on anything, but just taking in that Jesus died and then was resurrected 3 days later. So if you look at that, it's how often do you die and get re-resurrected? And I think where this is actually stemming from is that just a moment ago, somebody said to me, why are these people like this? And we were talking about a certain person that both of us know, and I'm like, well, because that's, without people like that, opportunity doesn't exist. And what I'm referring to is the average and the ordinary mindset. Yesterday I put out an article on the lie that you've been told and you believe, and it really is about the average and the ordinary mindset, and how we tend to really buy into the bullshit of that if we go to school and get good grades and work really hard and get into a good college, and then we come out and we get a job, and then we get, buy a house and a car and we get married, then we're happy. And that is the path to happiness. That is the path of success. And we start to look at that, and it's like, that's what we should do. So a lot of people do that. And even though they don't succeed to true happiness, and they're actually suffering and miserable throughout most of their lives, and they're sitting in a relationship that they don't like, and they have a house payment that is probably way too much for them because they, just got a bigger house, refinanced, and moved themselves into bigger houses and bigger cars. So now the debt is just astronomical, and then they've got their college debt on them, and then you got this and you got that and all this stuff. And you got all this stuff, and it's just this nasty ass weight on you. The majority of people choose to sit in that instead of doing something outside the box to make a transition in their life and be reborn, come into a new life by doing something different, because they think that that is the path of success. And then what do? We turn around after we do that, and then we force it on our own children, and we're telling them, this is what you have to do to be successful, when we ourselves are not successful from that past. So we keep feeding this bullshit line generation after generation after generation. And then we look out there and we look at people who are doing things that they love, who are turned on and passionate about the things that they love, and are like, oh, well, that doesn't happen for everybody. That's not possible for everybody. That's that average and ordinary mindset. That's the same mindset that when Pilate called out to the people and said, what do you want me to do with him? And they said, crucify him. Well, that's the same mindset that got Jesus strung up on the cross and crucified, is that average and ordinary mindset that looked at it as though you can't do anything outside the box, even though they witnessed that outside the box was doing something phenomenal, fantastic, and had all this greatness to it. But they still wanted Jesus crucified. And for any of us out there that are living lives that are not according to the average and ordinary mindset, we kind of get crucified on a day-to-day basis by lots of different people in our life and by different scenarios, because we're choosing not to take the average and ordinary path. But on a Good Friday, my topic is not to sit here and say, okay, crucifying and all this different stuff. I look at it as though this is a great day of reminding that we can all make a new choice for our life. We can allow a transformation to happen, and we can open up to that, and we can pass through that difficult time and be resurrected into a new life, into a new way of being, and a new way of living, and a new way of receiving. And if we do it in alignment to our truth, in alignment to our deepest heart's place, then we're also aligning to God, and, well, abundance just comes flowing when you get into alignment. And I'm not just talking about financial abundance. I'm talking about abundance in all different ways. So look at the spaces today in your life where you're kind of holding back, and you're being the naysayers. You're being the people in the crowd that screamed out, crucify him. And you're actually doing this to yourself. Today is a great representation day of putting yourself in Jesus' shoes and saying, where am I crucifying myself? Where am I hanging myself out and not supporting myself, even though I've seen beautiful miracles in my life? Where am I holding back and really attaching to things that are causing me a hefty weight in my life, and thus causing a lot of suffering? And here we go. And I'm off to the book that I was given. And when I picked up the book is called Thresholds of the Mind, and it's by Bill Harris. And he has an incredible system, which I listen to pretty frequently, the Holosync series. So here's the book. I have not read this book. I was just, quite literally, like I said, I just was given this book yesterday, and I opened it up, and I was looking through, and it's very, very Buddhist mindsets, but some terminology that is Kabbalistic as well. So he's a little bit all over the place. But one of the main things that as I was opened it up to, was he was talking about suffering and what causes suffering, and that it is, if we can learn how to detach, and in truth, I can tell you that is very true, actually, because the more we hold on to something, the more we really operate from a place of scarcity, of a fear of losing, a fear of not having, and we focus in on that heaviness of emotion of that not having, even when it is in our life, or if it leaves our life, then we go, I'm never going to have this again. That feeling And just to come into that space of breathing into that heart center and knowing that you always do have everything with you. You're never lacking in anything. It's always with you. And that is how you kind of move through, is to come from that space of whole. You know, I'm always telling people, if two people come together and they look at each other like, you're my everything, you're my, you complete me. That statement, you complete me. The statement of you complete me says I'm not a whole person without somebody else, that that I'm missing something. And that puts us into a space of not being fulfilled, of being broken, of not being complete in self, of not authentically, truly loving and believing in ourselves. So there's like a lack of worthiness in that statement of you complete me. If you come from a space of, I'm really enjoying you. This is a great, how can you be the cherry on top my sundae, not the sundae itself? And relationships where each person is the cherry on top of the sundae focus more in on the creation of the joy, the bliss, the happiness, and how each person, just accentuates the other just a little bit more. So it's more like you're just ooh, even more, and it's a conscious decision to be with each other versus a I need. And that right there is actually more of a detachment space to be in, because you know that you don't need that other person to make yourself happy, to make yourself whole, to make yourself feel safe, to make yourself do anything. You're with that other person because you choose to be with that other person, because you really do enjoy the aspects of that person. Your life with that person is not based on need. It is actually based on the joy, the happiness, and the love that you are experiencing with that person. And then if that person goes, it just doesn't mean that you're not going to experience heartbreak or pain. That stuff happens, but it does mean that you can move through things easier because you're not attached to that. There's this gaping hole inside of you that now all of a sudden you're broken and you're never going to have again, because you will have again. Same thing happens with jobs. Same thing happens with if we lose a house, we get our dream house and we just love that house, or we love that job and we've worked our ass off for it and now we have it, and then something happens and we lose it. If it has taken in and we feel like, oh, now I am, like you get the job of your dreams and you're like, okay, now I'm successful. Now I'm this, now I'm that. Now I am the image of success and I feel complete and I feel like I can conquer the world and on top of everything. And all of a sudden you lose it and basically you're destitute, not just financially destitute, you're destitute emotionally, and you then bring yourself down physically as well and mentally as well. And you crash and you burn. This is like where midlife crisis happens, right? The person who's had the job forever and they've worked themselves up in promotion, and then they get downsized and their whole life crashes. And from that, they lose their house and they lose their relationship, and then, they start drinking a massive amount of alcohol or something. And paint the picture there. It's all about attachment in that essence. What does that have to do with Jesus and Good Friday? A lot right there. Because what did Jesus do? He came here and to teach lessons. He knew ahead of time what the path was going to be. He knew that average and ordinary people were going to remain average and ordinary, and definitely create the path that he knew that he had to walk and the cross that he had to bear. He chose to bear that cross to lead the way, to show that you can basically be crucified in this life, die, and choose to be reborn. And the way to do that is to allow yourself through those processes, allow yourself through those cycles, and then make the commitment to self and to connect to God and to open up to the flow of energy and to be reborn in that by detaching from all this stuff that wants to hold us back. So his path was really a path of just setting down exactly what each of us need to do in a physical sense, even, and not just like when we pass through this life and we go to whatever you might believe in. We'll say heaven, and just to make it easy. But every single one of us in our life have a cycle of death and rebirth consistently through. A lot of people are not overly aware, conscious of these cycles. They get caught up in, the average and ordinary person will look at the death cycle and the rebirth cycle that we all go through, whatever that is, however many years. I mean, like mine is kind of like a 7-year gig. Every 7 years, I find myself going through a massive transformation. And we use the word transformation. Well, transformation is death and rebirth. That's all it is. For me personally, that's like every 7 years. But within that 7-year cycle, I have lots of mini transformation cycles. So lots of little stuff that's happening. And the average and ordinary person either does not pay attention to the large transformation and constantly is looking at when this stuff happens, like, oh God, yeah, I used to be married and then I got divorced and and it turns out like I turned around and I married the same person again, and now 10 years later I'm basically going through the same shit again, and blah blah blah. I wish I didn't have this happening in my life all the time. Why do I have to repeat this cycle? It's not that you're repeating because you didn't get some of the lessons, because you're not being consciously aware of your cycle. So wake up, be consciously aware. But also, if you have this path, it is that you're cycling in growth, whatever that term is for you. And that death and rebirth is going to help you to expand into that next level, that next level, that next level. And often in those times, people that we have been with don't move with us. And that's a really, really tough thing to do, to handle, to see that we have these people that we love, that we care about in our lives, and then we move and we do this transformation, and then we don't bring the majority of the people that we have had through the last transformation with us into the new phase of our life. But that is, it's difficult as it is. It also is a space of realizing that we're pulling new people in those moments. We're going to new terrain, new territory, and we're going to be lifted up in a different way, from different energies, from different connections. And that is the cycle of life. That is transformation. And when I say people, that can also mean that we might change location, that we might, you might have to change homes, change states, change countries. I don't know. It's different for every single person. It may mean that you change work in that cycle too. You might do a humongous career shift. A lot of transformations. Death and resurrection means that you wake up and you go, I hate this damn job that I've been doing the last 7, 10, 15 years. And then you do something absolutely wild and crazy. Quit your job and go do something completely different that seems irrational, and everybody's just going, what the heck? Like, talk about, that's what midlife crisis is, right? We go do extreme things, so it appears. But often, if you are being conscious about that midlife crisis, as the world will perceive it, you can move through it and elevate yourself in a way that you're moving closer to you, closer to your truth. And that's what life is really all about. Much like Jesus's walk on this earth, he was born a carpenter's son. To the outside world, that's what everybody saw. He was a carpenter's son. And he lived according to the rules of the days, according to the spiritual rules of the days. And then he reached a certain point, and then he started making these little stances, right? So as a young adult, he started making little stances. Then he moved through, and we don't really hear a whole lot about Jesus in in his later, the years between, 12 and 30, we don't hear a lot about. But there was stuff going on. Chances are the records are just not located. Who knows? There's probably stuff out there. But when he comes back into the picture, he's now transformed. He has gone through this transformation, and he is now on this new path. Well, technically speaking, if you were to look at it, he went through a midlife crisis 2,000 years ago, right? He goes through this midlife crisis, which happened early for him, but people lived not as long then. So maybe it was what we would consider for a 45, 50-year-old today. I don't know. But he went through this transition, and all of a sudden he's out there and he's preaching and, doing all this stuff that was like out of the box stuff. So now he's speaking his truth. He's speaking his truth. He's on his path. He is on that path to go and do what he feels called to do. We all do this. We all have that. And as we move through life, we're supposed to be trying to get closer to that path that is for us. But that means that we have to wake up to our path and get real with our path and get right with it, and realize that when we get right with our path, that there's going to be those naysayers. There's going to be those people that are going to scream, "Crucify him," at us all the time and try to bring us down, because they are of average and ordinary mindset, and they're not awake to the cycles, and they're not awake to the overall picture. So they want to keep everybody down in the crab pot with them, because that feels safe. That's safety. That's comfort. Sitting in there in your suffering, in your pain, in your misery, in the heaviness of all the attachment is where average and ordinary is happy. But inside each one of those average and ordinary people is a spirit that is extremely unhappy, because we were not born to be average and ordinary. We were born for greatness. We were born to, how can you call yourself a child of God, or believe that you even have a spark of any creator inside of you, no matter what faith you might believe, and then think that you were born to play it small? It's not, that's just not what it is about. That's also saying God is small. The creator is small. This energy that has created everything, has created the universe, has created our world, created life, and given so much to everything. Whether that is just looking at it from a big boom, experience, or looking at it from a strong Christian experience, or looking at it from, a Buddhist, or I don't care what the faith is. If you believe that something greater than you created you, then that greatness is inside of you. And if that greatness is inside of you, then you definitely were not meant to play it small. And that means whatever that means to you. What is big to you? I'm not referring necessarily to what you do for a living, or how big your house is, or how much money is in your bank account. What I'm referring to is, how do you walk the path that you walk? How do you move through this life? What kind of ripples are you throwing out into the world? Are they ripples of love, or are they ripples of anger, pain, and ego? Are they ripples of joy and abundance in love and in connection? Are they, ripples of peace, of gratitude? Are they ripples of this beautiful heart that I do believe beats in each of us, no matter how bad the choices are that we make? Are you focused in on that? Or are you focused in on the suffering, and on the attachment, and on the scarcity, and on the not having, and sending that out there? Because whatever you're focusing in on says more about the person that you are showing up as than anything else. Because you can be the sweetest damn person on the planet, and if you're focused on scarcity and on that suffering point, then you're actually being a nasty little crab, pulling everybody else back into the pot. and being one of those naysayers. You're one of those sweet people that was like, thank you for the blessing, and oh, now we're going to crucify you. Thank you very much. Because that's exactly what happened to Jesus. It was thank you for the blessing, and thank you for the miracle, and now we're going to crucify you. Pilate never anticipated that anybody would want to crucify Jesus because he had done nothing wrong. In Pilate's eyes, he had done nothing wrong. He put that out there, that he thought that every time they did this crucifixion, they lined people up, and he would set somebody free, whoever the people wanted set free. The people chose not to set Jesus free. They chose to set free actually a barbarian that that probably shouldn't have been. But that was all set up. Mostly government, everybody set it up. But the point is, good morning. The point is that if we can be those naysayers and we can have pretty faces and sweet personalities and appear to be doing all this different stuff, but if we're only doing it out of duty, and if we're only doing it to keep everything in this safe pretty little box here, and we turn around and we're like, yeah but, and we come out with our average and ordinary statements all the time, and all the time we're looking at what the negative result is instead of focusing in on the potential, on what can happen, and on the greatness of ourselves or on somebody else, then what are we actually doing? We're actually being the people in the crowd screaming, crucify him, because we're crucifying ourselves every single day by doing those things, and we're also crucifying our friends, our family, people, whoever it might be, when we do those things, because we're constantly pulling them back. And that is one of the biggest issues that we might run into when we're trying to grow and trying to go through these transitions, this death and rebirth cycle that we're talking about, that a lot of the times our friends, our family especially, are going to be there and always pointing out to us, yeah but. Well, yeah but is not a good statement. It's not a supportive statement at all. Yeah but is just a statement of like, yeah but blah 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 blah. I'm going to be that naysayer. I'm going to give you all this nasty ego, put doubt in there instead of supporting. And that's what causes relationship breakups too, by the way, because if somebody is focused on growing and moving and changing, and they are following their heart, their truth, and are on that path, then they have to step away from the naysayers for sure. So yes, detaching from things, paying attention to your cycles, and really tapping into your truth. So on this Good Friday, which I am going to be wishing you well here with, I want you really to look in and see, where are you the naysayer? Where are you that person that's crucifying yourself or others consistently? What are those fears that you have in your own growth? How are you holding yourself back, and because it's scary to grow. It is. It's not an easy path to take a step on. We get scared. We have doubt. We have a lot of crap that rises up for us. But as you're stepping forward on that path, be very, very aware as to where you're crucifying yourself. Or if you have people around you that are growing, how are you supporting them? Or how are you actually crucifying them? And look at those and realize that in a very short period of time, 3 days to be exact, if we were to follow Jesus's path, you can completely change your game. And in truth, in about 3 days, you can completely change your game, because within 3 days time frame, you can change, you can focus in, you can learn those patterns, and you can make a conscious decision to choose differently enough within 72 hours to completely change your energy and have a completely new life come Monday morning. So I challenge you to do that. I challenge you to write down where your holdbacks are, where those fears, those phobias are, where that doubt is holding, where that lack of worthiness is holding, where all that shit is at. Write it down, look at it, and then find the positive to each one. Write down the affirmations that can actually support you or support the people around you. And then go to work on yourself over this beautiful Easter weekend and be born again come Monday morning. And, you know, let's let the whole weekend go and wake up Monday with a whole new sight on your life, a whole new plan for your life, and in a new energy, which is your rebirth. I hope this was helpful. I saw some things flashing through here, some hearts and some fingers up. So thank you for being up with me on this Friday morning early. And I will catch you guys actually on Monday, because I don't do conscious coffees anymore on the weekends. So I hope everybody has a phenomenal Easter weekend. I hope everybody really, really just enjoys the weekend and enjoys family and connection and love and transformation. So if this talk was helpful to you at all, like I always tell everybody, hit the little share button right down there. Just hit the little share button so that Facebook goes, oh, this is something worthwhile, and you know, we'll support it a little bit. So gotta love that. Need everybody's support to get support from Facebook too. So hit the share button. Feel free to leave your comments, message me however you might want to message me, and I will catch you guys on Monday. Happy Good Friday, guys, and happy Easter. Bye.